Miss Rose Corbin, Maxine McClean, and
Hello.
Mr. Glyne Murray.
Good night.
Good night, good evening, and welcome.
Good evening.
Welcome. I seem so formal. Why are we being so formal?
Serious business tonight.
Serious business tonight. Very serious business tonight. And I want to thank you all very much for adapting with me to this format tonight. Thank you, Mr. Murray. I know you had something prepared, and hopefully you can present it later in this week. But Miss Corbin and Miss McClean, Mr. Murray, when I read this article today, after it was sent to me, I don't know how many times it was sent to me today, I realized this is something that it's a piece of writing that is I thought was very, very important. And I thought that it would be important for us to break it down to our oh, this is Mr. Wade Gibbons. Okay, I don't know if there's another photo, but I don't know him. I guess you
That's
guys,
him. That's
that's
him.
him. I think one of the things that we can start with, Miss McClean, is to tell us a little bit about Mr. Wade Gibbons, just briefly.
Well, as what I can tell you is he's an excellent journalist. He epitomizes the saying that the pen is mightier than the sword. Then you see the quality of his articles, and I think you mentioned earlier, it's my understanding that at some point in time he would have been a member of the Royal Barbados Police Force as it was known then.
Yes.
And Glyne may like this. From what I heard, Glyne can clarify, he went to the University of Waterford.
Say call me right. Thank you very much.
Complimere, I have no problems with Complimere. I have 4 nieces who went there, brother, etc. But so that is it. But I have heard he's always been an excellent writer. As a journalist, I've always been impressed. And the other thing I would say that he has, when he worked in the media, I thought he was always well researched. And outside of the traditional media, in his what I would call his private writings, or writing as not as an employee of a media house, he's been fearless.
He's been fearless, yes. And one of the reasons that Mrs. Corbin, that I decided to use his article today for the tonight is that I really want Barbadians to understand that the opposition is really all of us. It's every one of us. They don't have to be on the show. You can use your Facebook, use your Instagram, if you have a YouTube channel, use it, use WhatsApp. Once they at least know they haven't started to listen to that yet. Well, so we think, but you still have that. But let's go right into this article tonight. But let's just set the context. Mr. Murray, can you briefly explain, what is wiretapping and why government may say they need it? What is the difference? Is there a difference between legal and illegal wiretapping? What is wiretapping? Why government needs it? Say they need it, and what is the difference between legal?
Can it bring a fan for me? Plug in this fan. And
Yes, go right ahead,
Yes,
Mr.
you're putting me in a very difficult spot, but I can't, because I wouldn't like to dare to try to venture to explain the motives and rationale of this government, not even in this measure. What I would like to say to start off with, I'd like to start off where Mr. Gibbons started off. He said, according to his article, for what do we call that, illegal wiretapping started under a previous Barbados Labour Party government. Okay? But I haven't listened to the vast majority of the debate in Parliament last Friday. I found it instructive that contrary to the turmoil and upheaval and discomfort and unhappiness and edginess and distrust that I found among any Barbarian who spoke about this matter, nobody's taking it in their stride. When the question of illegal, when in his presentation, the Attorney General Marcia said that he brushed it off. Oh, it's been happening in Bahrain for decades. For decades. The Prime Minister, in her wrapping up debate, in her contributing debate towards the end of the debate, said that it dates back, it's a significant dates back to the days of Prime Minister Erskine Sandiford, and also Attorney General Maurice King, both of whom are dead and cannot defend themselves on the record. And I found that rather than seeking to explain, make excuses for, to apologize to the public for the past sins in the public's mind that are happening where taboo is concerned, she tried to sidestep it and dismiss it and share the blame. She should have used the occasion to apologize. She should have used the occasion to assure the public that contrary to what might have happened in the past, it will not happen under her watch. Rather than that, she sought to spread the blame across the years and against a person who cannot say. And I think that is indicative of the government more so than the motive. It explains the motive behind it.
Mhm.
Because let me make this point. She this is to put it in Barbadian parlance, this is the most don't care government ever seen in care about it, where they don't seem to care about public opinion or how the public sees them. They just do what they want to do when they want to do it. I don't think the prime minister seems to understand. She seems to bask in the glory of two previous 30 love, but they don't seem to understand that
Yeah.
that goodwill that would have accompanied those two victories has greatly diminished, and therefore she cannot take public support as a social capital for granted anymore.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. Miss McClean, we're using the word wiretapping very loosely. And I explained to the viewers that, and so is Mr. Wade Gibbons in that particular article. Um, but really, as I said, well, as I was saying, I told the viewers that I know that it is wider than that. Okay, we're not, because and I'll allow you to give us the definition of wiretapping in this time.
Well, my definition, let me put it that way. Wiretapping really is listening into, in terms or accessing people's communications. Because when we spoke of wiretapping previously, it was a situation where people had telephones and landlines. So you literally had, for telecommunications company, wires running across the country. So you literally tapped into those wires, if you think of it. But what
Yes,
this is talking about is accessing people's, intercepting people's communication, whether it's telephone, whether it's internet, and so the range of communications. And so I can imagine that somebody's listening to my landline, they're monitoring my cell phone, they're looking at my emails, and as we heard in the debate, basically, when we thought that WhatsApp was safe and encrypted and all of that, we know that it can be accessed. So really and truly, as it says here, is the act of secretly intercepting and listening to calls, telephone calls, and other communications, often without their knowledge or consent. It's electronic surveillance. So they're observing your every move, quote unquote, using all the means of communication.
yeah.
So I call
And
you on my phone and I listen to the two of us.
so right, and I loved how you listed so that all the devices, because it's not just your phone, but your emails, it's any form of communication, your WhatsApp. Because somebody called me today, so, and they said, do you mean that if I send a post to somebody via WhatsApp, send a message, a voice note, all of it, okay? And so it's important that we clarify that. Let me ask Mrs. Corbin. The article gives us some lessons from the past, right? According to this article, illegal wiretapping was first introduced under a previous BLP government. And I would like for you, Mrs. Corbin, to just summarize for us what actually happened when you read this article. And I'm sure you must have read also the court document that was out for a while now, with the Barbados Underground. What actually happened?
Thank you. I would first say that I would want to trust the integrity of the article and of the writer. Miss McClean spoke to, I would have read articles written before by him years ago. I've lost touch, haven't read anything recently, and so I would want to trust the integrity of his article and what was presented. What I have gathered from it is that the activity of wiretapping has been used, it has been carried out, it has been executed, um, in some cases unaware to the person who may have been tapped or whose conversations would have been listened into. And that it is a dangerous way to go in terms of um, the wide reach of wiretapping
Mm-hmm.
and the insecurities and fears that can be caused, it can cause to the public at large who is protected from it, who would it be used on or against. And those are some of the things that I gathered from the article. And this this relates to what I would have heard and was educated on by
Mm-hmm.
listening to the panelists on the DLP um, TV on Thursday night as they were preparing for the presentation in Parliament on Friday as they were seeking to inform. Now, Marcia, like all others, we would have joked in the past about, and Maxine and I were laughing about this, about wiretapping. And you would hear at times when we had the wire telephone, you would hear like a click in the telephone. I don't know if Glyne remembers that. And you would say, somebody listening, somebody listening. You could hear that click. And there were people who would actually start cursing. If you listening to beep, beep, beep my conversation, this is what beep, beep, beep I have to tell you. There were times I know I was talking to someone, we heard a click, and the person started singing. And so we have been aware informally, as it were, that there's something called what we didn't even call it wiretapping. We say, I hear somebody listening in on our
Listening in,
conversation.
people listening
I
in.
was speaking parables, but now it is cause for concern given the kinds of designations, I don't know if that's that word, the kind of things that are now attached legally to justify um, this interception of communication. That's the name, interception of communication. Things like anything that may resemble a conversation that will cause treason or political unrest, or it broadens now what we
Yes,
would have been accustomed to. And I
went
think
back
that
in
is
that
what
time.
the article signals to.
Six and so, Mr. Murray, I was listing the types of people and the names of people. So there were categories of people and names of people that were mentioned in the article. I want to know from you, were you surprised at those names? And
I,
for the person who is listening, I know there are people watching from St. Vincent and other countries. Can you make it clear for us? Were these people criminals, or were they political figures?
I was shocked. It happened after I left cabinet in 2003. It happened
Mm-hmm,
around, from what I understand, around 2007, in the last days of Prime Minister Wayne Arthur. And he
mm-hmm.
himself was a subject, a target, a victim of it, him and his driver and whatnot. And he was very upset. He was annoyed. He was offended because it really struck the core of the trust that people had in their governments, in the institutions. Offended.
So, Mr.
Why?
Murray, allow me to ask you, because you have age as your your weapon against us
my
tonight.
my uh, my 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 asset,
Your asset. Thank you.
right?
Thank you. That's the right word. Let me ask you something. Did you ever speak to Mr. Arthur about this, sir?
Of course, we discussed it. Of
Mm.
course, we discussed it, and he was offended for that kind of happened, and it was something he knew nothing about. He did not initiate it. I think it involved persons close to him, persons who he had known for many years and trusted and respected, and known him very closely. So he felt it was an act of betrayal not only against himself and against the integrity of the government, of the whole system, because Barbadians have felt since then that it might not have been, if it was not illegal, it was offensive, it's immoral, untrustworthy, all the negative things, because it betrayed a certain trust in the society at large, that I expect a certain standard of behavior from the whole society, and all the institutions involved in it, especially those wielding tremendous authority and power.
Wow. So it's a shock for you to know the type of people. Here it is saying former Prime Minister Owen Arthur. Those of you who are listening from overseas, from other countries, this is what and this is court documents. This is coming from court documents, Mr. Murray.
Right, I
So
read the
we don't
document.
have to say alleged. His police driver, magistrate, the children's advocate, Faith Marshall Harris,
Um, it's a
Police Service Commission member Keith Whitaker, former deputy, even the former deputy police commissioner. Now, were these, to the best of your knowledge, Mr. Murray, were these criminals?
I never,
Were these the criminal
as
elements in the country?
I never even heard a rumor, a whisper, a suspicion that there might have been. So the collection is so wide and widespread. It makes it seem as though people were carrying their personal peaks and assignments against other individuals for whatever reasons, not anything associated with policy or programs or offenses or activities in the government or the public interest. It seems to have been a personality driven. I might also say around that same time, I had mentioned it before, that was when they had um, an attempted palace coup in the government. Okay?
Hmm.
People seem to have been urgent and couldn't wait their turn or wait for the process to think. And there was an attempt to overthrow Mr. Arthur's government while he was Prime Minister. Fortunately, somebody involved passed the word and it was nipped in the bud. So it's not so you can't just say it in isolation as happened. The political forces at work must have been
Yeah.
must, in my mind, to my mind, have been involved in that also.
Yes. Miss McClean, thank you, Mr. Murray. Miss McClean, the tribunal identified the senior figure who ordered the taps. The question is, why was there no prosecution? If it was because it would have been illegal, right? And these are
When you
all
say that again,
the
Detroit.
tribunal identified. This is now from the court document. The senior figure who ordered the taps, the wiretaps. The question is, why do you think there was no prosecution? Do
My
we know what became of the tapes and evidence collected back
I have
then?
absolutely no idea. They're probably with the people who did it in the first place or copies of them, because trust me, I watch enough movies, and movies mirror reality, that people might have kept information. But remember, if you look at paragraph 3 of the article,
Hmm.
there is reference to the late great inspector of police Anderson invaded boy. Now, when I call that name, it hurts my heart. He's a Black Rock boy. Went to St.
Okay.
Stephen's. primary school. So I know him, or I knew him, because he's not with us anymore. From all that you understand here and where the court documents would have originated, from my understanding, he would have been subject to this, and he brought a case. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, and this is where the persons who we would have to go back and research to get the full details. What happened was he died. And in fact, what is on the screen right now speaks to an article which would have been in Barbados today. And it speaks to comments from his widow. You
Hmm.
understand? Because so in essence, a
Hmm.
process, from what I understand, of investigation might have started. Unfortunately, he died, and some things probably stopped. But if you look, you will see that certain action was taken. Um, there's reference to the former commissioner of police.
Yeah,
It's
we
here.
probably should read it. Let's just read it, Miss McClean.
Okay.
Can you see it to read it, or you want
Yes.
me to read it? Can
Okay,
you
I
read
can
it?
read it.
Thank you.
Social activist Charmaine Roland Bowen says she feels violated by government's decision to engage former Commissioner of Police Darwin Dutton as a consultant on crime. Roland Bowen, who is president of the Barbados Road Safety Association, obviously at the time this was written, said she was not motivated by vengeance, but wanted closure on one of the most unsavory periods of her life. Roland Bowen is the widow of late Detective Inspector Anderson Bowen, who more than a decade ago blew the whistle on the Royal Barbados Police Force for allegedly engaging in illegal wiretapping. Roland Bowen, a born-again Christian, told Barbados Today that she wanted justice. She said there was an abundance of evidence that illegal wiretapping had been conducted in Barbados. And if the head of the force at the time was denying it, then it meant her late husband was a liar, as well as everyone else who had spoken out about it. She said her husband had a civil suit before the Supreme Court with respect to illegal wiretapping at their home, but he died before the case's completion.
Yeah.
And so that speaks to some. It was a civil case, um, but the lawyers perhaps can speak to that some more. But
Yes.
all I would say, it is unfortunate that Inspector Bowen did not have his day in court.
And
As the
it was done to him, and he was a whistleblower.
right.
Mm. But what why do you think though here's this woman, Miss Bowen, she's asking for justice, and to this day there was no prosecution, even though the person who did it was identified. There was no prosecution. Why do you think there was no
Well, the
prosecution?
person who is alleged to have done it, because
Alleged, yeah. Hmm.
until the court rules, and in fact, there may be further information which we are not, um, to which we do not have access. But to my mind, and I am not a lawyer, so I prefer to have legal eagles speak to these things. But to my mind, our legal system, there are processes that have to be followed, and things have to be initiated. Oftentimes, for example, this was a civil suit, from what Mrs. Roland Bowen said in relation to what was ongoing when Inspector Bowen passed away. Now, the question I will ask, and this is something that an attorney can answer: who initiates criminal action? In other words, if it is illegal, and therefore I would use the word criminal, where does that, in the case of those accused, who will initiate it? My question is, what is the role of the Director of Public Prosecutions in all of this? Because so I ask questions because I'm not a lawyer. So
Yeah.
the question is it a simple matter, or let me put it differently. What is the process to be followed in actioning something like this within our justice system?
Yeah.
And that may
You know,
help us to understand why it is where it is, or where it isn't.
right. Why? But probably there was the point is that there was no prosecution. Whatever the reason is, there is no prosecution, which is leading me to the question here for Mrs. Corbin, I believe. Mrs. Corbin, the article claims they're key players in the illegal wiretapping scandal and that they still hold influence today. In fact, I will tell you that one of them actually turned out at one of our roadside parliaments. I don't know if you guys are aware, but while we were there, on stage speaking, etc., this particular person was pointed out to me, trying to hide in the shadows. Don't know why they were at the roadside parliament, but the point is that they are with us in the society, and they're not just in the society, Mrs. Corbin, but a lot of them, it's alleged that they hold influence today. If this is true, what does this mean for public trust? Here we are. We're talking about, the government is now saying, okay, we're going to do it legally. It was done illegally, but we're going to do it now legally. What does that mean for public trust at this point to you?
I can say engendering even greater mistrust and fear
Mm,
within the society. I listened to I listened to the entire debate even before Parliament started. I was online, and the AG's way of handling it, like um, it was illegal before. It happened all the time. It's been happening. All we're doing is legalizing it. That concerns me, that you are legalizing something that in the past has affected so many persons who were unaware that they were being um, the conversations were being tapped into, and these were not criminals as we would they're seeking now to say it is to track down criminal activity. Therefore, what we used to dismiss as the listening into the conversation, is greater now. You don't know who, it's like a science fiction movie now or something like
yes.
that. You don't know where Big Brother will be. Who is Big Brother? You know the book 1984. Who is Big Brother? And you are going to be suspicious. It's
Hmm.
going to limit our conversations. So I want to have a conversation with you, Marcia, about what's next on the Marcia Week show. And we have to be cautious. We now have to get our own code to speak. It is not as dismissive. I found the AG's um, presentation, as like, fear not. That is what was captured on the front page yesterday. Fear not, as if the AG were the angel Gabriel, or one of those angels at Christmas, telling the shepherds and the wise men, don't be afraid. And it is more than that.
Yes.
One, we are not clear who is exempted from this. And don't tell me, panelists, that um, if you're not doing a crime, or if you're not involved in a crime, you don't have need to fear. Something as evasive as this should cause persons to fear, and it would raise suspicion to amongst persons um, for whom there should be no suspicion. I will start wondering, can I trust this person and this conversation that I'm having with them? It is not a comfortable place to be sitting in, particularly to what we would have read in the article, and where how the bill has been presented to us and the explanations that have been given.
given so
more
far
needs to be brought to us.
to us.